Well, good morning folks, and welcome to Nanaimo Yacht Charters. My name is Ian, and I'm going to show you over our Catalina 36 Mark II. So we'll start right at the back of the boat and we'll work through the deck and then we'll go down below. So starting right here, you've got your shore power cable plugged in, and it comes around here, and that's the receptacle, the socket. Now these are smart plugs, so that you don't twist, you actually squeeze the two paddles. I'll just show you here. Lift up that flap, squeeze those two paddles, and then withdraw the cable. So you don't pull or twist like you used to. And when you put it back, you push it in as far as you can go, and you drop that top, and it makes that encouraging little clunk sound as it goes in. So please remember, before you leave the dock, to undo the shore power. And as you can see from the rest of the transom, she's fully equipped for a good cruise. You've got 400 feet of floating line for your stern ties, and you've got a crane, which for old folk like me I really enjoy, because all we do is tie the dinghy alongside here, across, actually thwartships across the transom, hook it into the harness on top, and the lines go down there. You lift it up and you could lower it straight onto the transom. So there is the dinghy out on the hard. It's a brand new 10'6" Pacific Wave, so you'll enjoy that, and that gives you good transport, and for gunk hauling it's ideal. So let's go on. This is your boarding ladder as well, that drops down, so boarding through the transom we'd have to move the boat forward, but this is not an issue. For today we'll just step by, and here we are. Now one thing to note is in the transom here is a breaker for the shore power. So if for any reason or other after plugging in shore power you didn't have power, it would be because this breaker here was off. So we're going to start the motor now, and we use the round key, the round brass key, and slot it into the side here. And then what I usually do is make sure that we're, most importantly, that we are in fact in neutral. There we are, that's neutral, reverse. The neutral's got this lovely little detent, so you can't miss, it's right there. And we give ourselves a bit of throttle, and we twist the key, and as I twist the key I'm actually preheating the engine glow plugs, and that will give me a better ability to start. So I'll hold that down there for about 10 seconds, and simultaneously while holding it down I press that. You can see she starts instantly. So I'll bring it back to about 1200 RPM and we'll let it warm up at that rate. Now the running temperature while we're out there is around about 180 degrees, so we won't want to move off until it's at least up at 150. Alright, I'm going to go through the description of the gauges. Alright, so while it's idling and warming up at about 1000 RPM, that's perfect. And as I said, the temperature here should be up at about 150 before it's warm, and then it will go slightly higher when you're cruising. Volts are up here at 14 volts, so that shows that the alternator is charging nicely, and of course our fuel gauge. Now let's go up to here and look at the controls. This is slow. I'm bringing it back, so that's as slow as it goes, and it'll be just below 1000 RPM. Now you never put it into gear with a lot of throttle. You always start with it in neutral. That's absolutely crucial, because you don't want to suddenly start and leap off. So you want to start with it in neutral, and then put it into gear. You just stroke it forward, and the gear go into gear, and then stern. There we are, and we're now going astern. And then that's back to neutral again. And of course once you're in gear, you can just bring up the throttle. We're off to the races. So when it comes to stopping the engine, always make sure that your throttle is at its lowest possible point, okay? And then never switch the key off. You always want to pull the stop lever. Now this is where the stop cable is. So you just give it a firm tug like that, and off she goes. And then of course the alarms will sound. So you switch the key off quickly, or else you'll be deafened by the thing. If that alarm sounds while you're motoring along, it could mean that you're not getting enough coolant through the engine. It could mean that the impeller is not working properly. So really, when you start the engine, you always look over the side here to make sure you're getting a nice healthy jet of water. Alright, this is where the propane is stored in here, and that's where you switch it on and off, and this is used for operating the stove down below. Okay, this one here is for the secondary bottle, which is in the locker there, and that is to operate your barbecue. So what I usually do is just take the bottle over here, and I set the bottle up on the cockpit floor or on the seat, and I connect it to the bottom of the barbecue. There's the regulator on here at the bottom of the barbecue, and you connect your hose onto that, and then you can cook. This is the only cockpit locker. The other side is actually just an opening for the hatch, so that folks sleeping in the aft cabin can get ventilation. This has got your spare propane bottle. It's got an adapter from 15 to 30 amp, and of course your dinghy pump, and top up fuel for the dinghy and oars. So this is a busy little locker with some extra line in there. We're going to go through the drill for pulling out the mainsail, and it's an in-mast furling sail. The very first thing you do is read the spin lock, and this says in haul, so you open that, okay, and you come across to this side, and this is out haul, and you open that. Now they are only open if the lever is all the way through and you can move the line through the rope clutch, just like that. And this one here is your out haul, and again you pull that. Now when you are pulling the sail out, you want to be going upwind, in fact dead into the wind, and you want no tension on the actual main sheet itself. So basically no tension on the actual main sheet. And over here, so there is your main sheet in the clam cleat, and it's got one on either side, so you undo that so that the boom can actually move up. Undo them on both sides because it's a continuous line main sheet. So with that we can now pull the sail out. So you just tug away, and you'll notice as it comes out, this is going back in. So if you're having any difficulty pulling it out, it's usually with some over-enthusiastic crew member sitting on it. Okay, so we'll just tug away. You'll see the sail come out nice and easily. So if you can see that. Okay, so that gives you an idea. The mainsail is now out. And now we want to probably reef it. You can always pull in half of it. Or if you want to roll it away completely, just reverse the procedure. Make sure that that's free and ready to go. And this is why this is called the in haul, because it pulls the sail in. So let's put it in. There you go. You can see it going in nicely. And that's it. It's in. So really a pleasure to operate. Nice and easy to deploy. And it's got the sails are in good condition. And of course when you're finished, neatness is imperative, so you don't have lines all over the cockpit. So you flake those down, and you've got a rope bag for that. So they can just go loosely in there. We're just pointing out the switch for the windlass. It's on this battery switch panel where we've got two switches, and essentially this one with the light on is your windlass, your anchor windlass breaker, so that must be on. This is your start battery, and this here is your house battery. So there you go, those are on at the moment, and the boat is plugged into shore power and charging away merrily. We can switch this on, the light will come on. This is your distribution breaker, and that should always be on if you want any DC power on the boat. Right. Okay, so we're now at the anchor locker, and if you look down here you'll see the chain is marked in bright yellow, and that's every 10 meters, every 30 feet that's marked. The boat has 50 feet of chain, or 250 feet of fairly robust looking anchor rod, which is at least 7/8. this is an important thing to remember, this little tether, so that you open up the lid and tether it so it doesn't blow shut on you, which can cause an injury. This is the up button. Okay, so if I press that, that's going to lift the anchor up. Now to drop the anchor, you just open this up like that and give that a bit of a tap. You can see it's free and ready to run. Okay, but you must give it that tap because the clutch bites on it. To lock it up again, nip it up by hand once the anchor and chain are back in situ. Okay, so it's very simple. Just an up button and a clutch lever on the top. And you can decide how quickly you want to lay the chain by just putting the handle in there and just opening it and shutting it. Right, so here is our DC panel. This side here on the extreme left is the AC panel, and that's obviously with your shore power on. Now if there is a problem with the shore power cable or you haven't got it in right, this reverse polarity light will flash. It will show. And this here, you press to test it, you can see it is working fine. But that will actually light up if there's a problem. These are your outlets. This is your water heater. If you want hot water from the dock, you switch that on. If you want it while you're motoring, there's a separate procedure which we'll go through. This is your charger and inverter. So I always suggest as soon as you tie up, you want to have that charger working, put current back into the batteries. Moving to the right here, this is all our AC side. Our DC side. This is the DC side, the cabin lights, the running lights, the steaming lights, your refrigeration, your stereo, VHF, nav instruments, and so on. So that's all, and this here is your macerator. That's an important one. You flick that and you can hear the motor running, and we do empty the holding tanks every day as soon as we're in open space and out of the marine and out of marine parks. Okay. So coming on down here, important LPG gas solenoid. We'll switch that on and we'll probably light the stove as we speak. So if we switch that on, you can see there's the detector panel and it will flash away. You can't light the stove unless the bottle is switched on, which we have done, and that is steady. All you've got to do is press that valve on and you can hear the clock from the solenoid, and then that light is on. So with those two lights, what it's telling us is there's no threat of stray propane in the boat, and we're now ready to light the stove, which we'll do. So we're just going to find ourselves a lighter. So to light the stove, you just depress it, twist it to the left, and you can actually hear the stove, the gas coming out, and you light. Now I hold it down for a further 5 seconds so that the thermocouple can engage. Thermocouple is a little unit down there which will switch the propane off should the suddenly be blown out. So there you go, that's lit and ready to go. This one is for there, that one's for that one. So we'll do the same over here by pushing in, twisting it, and then lighting. So you've got a nice clean blue flame there. That means it's going to cook well. So that switches off, we just twist it and you'll see that it pops out so that it can't be bumped on. This is the lighting of the oven, and you press this button and light the oven rack down below, and exactly the same thing. You hold it down and then the pilot will light once you set your temperature. And you have this in the pilot on position to light. Okay, and then once that's lit, you can then move it to the higher temperatures and it will light. So it's most important that we switch that off when we're done. There, well, that's off, and I'm now going to go up into the cockpit and switch off the propane bottle, which is a very important procedure. So I'm going to switch the propane supply off. Not there. Twist. Here. How about here? There we are. That's it. So we switch on the nav instruments and we'll go up aloft and have a look and see what we've got. Because it's got a brand new MFD plotter. So here we have Raymarine's new Axiom plotter, and my gosh, look at all that lovely stuff. This is the first time we've switched it on. It's on chart, so we can press that and OK, and we'll wait for the chart to scroll up. In the meantime, we'll take these covers off. This one here is giving me depth and speed, okay, and that one there gives me wind direction. That's speed of the boat through the water. This is the wind speed of the rain. No pilot because we have got that switched off. Perfect. I'll put that back. There we are. And it gives me depth clearly imprinted there. And it is touchscreen, and that's exactly where we are. This our main dock, and we're 4 spaces along, so that's accurate to within inches. So I hope you'll enjoy that. So the autopilot is switched on down at the instrument panel. So you'll switch autopilot on and you'll switch nav instruments on. And this little Raymarine panel will then engage. You can see we're on standby at the moment, and it'll give me my heading. It also gives me very kindly a rudder indicator. So that's dead ahead. Right there. You can see the rudder indicator working. Now if you wanted to go into auto, you would hit the auto button, and we've now got auto engaged. And if you wanted to correct 10 degrees to port, you just hit that and you can see it's correcting, or 10 degrees to starboard. There we are. And these little ones on the top here are very small incremental changes. You just press once at a time and it'll change by a degree or 2. So very, very simple. Autopilot right here, press button control, and we're now going to show you how to access the engine. So the way to do that is you'll see that it slots into a bracket here. It actually drops into a bracket. Now it is quite heavy because it's got a fire extinguisher mounted up underneath there. But to access the engine, you lift the steps up until they clear these top brackets, and then you move the steps out the way. You can then slide this box back, and that will give you good access to the top of the engine. For your daily checks, and whilst on charter, you can access the oil through that little panel there. You can see there's a picture, and that'll give you access to the dipstick. What I would recommend is that you take the steps off before the start of your charter. Make sure you're familiar with where everything is, like dipping for the oil and so on, and checking the water levels. And then you can put the steps back, and then on a daily basis all you need to do is open that little cover and check the oil. And once we've removed the steps, you then undo the top clip like that, and there's another side clip down here, or the one near the foot, and you undo that. Now with those two, you'll be able to slide this box out. As you can see, that gives really good access to the top of the engine. It gives you an indication, which you can see through this little trapdoor, so you don't have to go through all of this every time. But you can see that the water level is exactly where it should be, between the low and the high mark. And it's filled with coolant, not just plain water. Down at the bottom, down here, is the dipstick. And you'll probably find that it's easy to access from this little panel here. But there's the dipstick. Can you see where my finger is? Mm-hmm. That's your dipstick. So you need to check that once a day before starting. Alright, the diesel heater, to get hot water and hot air blown throughout the boat, you'll want to switch on the heater control here. Okay, and then you come up here and you switch on to engine heat by depressing that down, and you have the heater on. You'll see the light will come on. Okay, so that's engine heat. If you wanted system heat, which is firing up the diesel fired burner, you just flick that to the top. Make sure that the thermostat is on full, and then you just hit that button and that will bring the heater into play. Now most importantly, when that's running, hot gases through its own exhaust system are emitted through the side, and if you have your dinghy painter in the way or a dock line, it'll burn through in seconds. So be very careful of that exhaust position on the boat. And when you do switch off, you can switch that off and then switch that down, okay, and make sure that this is on for 10 minutes so it cools down. This is actually the one that makes it work. By pressing that, that will bring heater into work. Okay, here we have the bilge setup. We always leave that on. That's worked with a float switch in there, and if water comes in there, we'll always pump it out. This is a manual override just to make sure it's working. You can hear it working away there happily. And if you put back into auto, then it will be working with its float switch only. To switch on the VHF radio, you just switch on the panel here and it'll light up. Okay, so we get our weather channels there by pressing WX, and you can see it goes straight onto WX position, and there are 10 of those channels. So we'll just show you. That's channel 2, channel 1, and you choose the one that's clearest and best for you. No, that's probably the best at the moment. Okay, and then to switch off, you just switch the volume switch to the right and off it goes. So remember, WX is your weather channel. You have 10 of them, and you just, once the set is on, you can hit WX, it'll come up and it'll give you 1 to 10 in channels, and you choose the clearest one for you. You just choose that, and it'll give you ongoing weather, and it's updated a couple of times a day, at 10 and at 4, and it'll give you very accurate weather, so it's well worth listening to and can make a big difference to your holiday if you're in the right place and the right anchorage when you need to be. Alright, so what we've done is we've actually removed this, taken it out of here, and because this is obviously your saloon area, and what you can do is take this board out, and it goes and drops in here, and these infill cushions come in and make a really comfortable big double bed right here in the saloon. So that's well worth noting. And you can see it's easily dispatched. You just lift that clip up, pull it over, and drop it into position onto the rails. Right, so we've lifted all the cushions out of the way, and inside here is an important bit of action. It's where your toolkits are. You can see all the tools, and in there you'll have an array of wrenches. You've also got your battery charger in here, and they're all fused. Now over here is your water tanks, and you have 3 water tanks. That's your centerline tank, that's your starboard tank, and this one here is the port tank. There it is. So your 3 valves are right there. Now remember, when one tank runs empty, it's imperative that you switch that empty one off before opening the full one. Because if you don't, you'll lose prime, and you will have a task on your hands to get the system primed. It's important when the water starts spluttering that you change tanks. What you want to do is switch off that tank and then open up a full tank. If you don't, you will suck air from the empty tank or the spluttering tank, and then you'll have a priming problem on your hands. Okay, so in this particular locker you've got your macerator pump. Now there's no valves to change because that macerator pump valve is there and it's open all the time. So as soon as you hit the button on the chart table panel, the DC panel, it starts pumping out the holding tank, which is right here. So there's your holding tank. Okay, so you'll always want to pump that out at least once a day. And what I recommend doing is in the head itself, and I'll show you that, you switch off the raw water inlet, because the holding tank is below water level, it tends to fill with fresh, well, when I say fresh, clean salt water. So it's important to switch that off, and I'll show you where to switch that off in the head. So to use the toilet, you move the black lever over to the wet bowl side, which is on the left. Now with it in that position, you can pump, and it will draw water in. You can see the water coming in, and it flushes at the same time. So the more times you pump that, the cleaner the toilet will be. So it's important that that's pumped many times. And then after you empty it, put it onto the dry bowl side. You can see a picture of a dry bowl there, and you pump away, and you'll see the water going down, no more water is introduced, and that's going into your holding tank. Okay, so that's the operation of that, and always leave it on the dry bowl side because you don't want it to make water. Now, as I said, that this bowl is probably right on the water line, so you always want to leave that on dry bowl. In there you can see where they're marked. You have a look, and you switch off the raw water feed to the toilet. Excellent. Right. Now, so after you've showered, you'll want to get rid of the water. Firstly, you switch on the shower drain pump on the panel. It's the second to bottom switch on the panel, and then you come across here and you press that button and you can hear it run, and it will carry on running and pump all the water out. So refrigeration, you just switch it on there and it'll fire up. Now, importantly, you can set the thermostat level on here. You can hear it, it's just engaged. And if you lift this chap up, so inside here, just at the entrance to the ice section of it, is the thermostat. And you can rotate that round to the fullest position. Well, thank you for spending some time to view the video with us. We hope you have wonderful sailing and good voyages.